Hi, you've reached the Caldwells. Please leave a message and we will get back with you just as soon.
Welcome to the RV Work-Life Balance Podcast with your traveling nomadic hosts, Sherri and Russ Caldwell.
Hey, that's us. We're living the dream, working from home, baby.
No matter where home is.
And you can too.
All right. Thanks for joining us again. It's great to see you again, or hear from you again, maybe. What are we going to say? Cheers.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers. Okay, I got to ask, because it's my favorite question of the week. Where are we today?
Because you don't really know, right?
I don't know. I always have to look out the window, and you have to tell me. Where are we at?
Today, this week, we are in southeastern Idaho on the Snake River. And we are at the Village of Trees RV Resort.
Is it Village of the Trees or Village of Trees?
Village of Trees
okay,
RV Resort.
Because I thought it was like Village of the Damned for a while. So
this is actually
it's an
our
awesome
second
place.
time at this location, which is really weird because the first time we came through here from Walla Walla, Washington, heading out east, and we stayed here, and when we first drove up, because it's like, okay, you take the exit off the highway, the interstate, and then you turn left at the gas station. Basically, it's a truck stop.
We're behind a gas station. When we first came here, this is literally what happened. And if the owners of this place hear this podcast, we love you. Trust me. But we pulled up to the gas station, and there's nothing anywhere around. And
we couldn't really see down
couldn't see
into
the
the campground.
Yeah, because of all the trees from the name. And we were like, should we just turn around and leave? We literally said that to each other.
It was gas station.
It was a gas station.
Yeah. So, but we didn't.
No. And within like 5 minutes, we were glad we didn't.
Yeah. Actually, we do that a lot. We roll up into a new situation, and it's like,
yeah,
I don't know about this. But then by the end of the week, we're loving it.
In fact, it seems like the more weirded out or concerned we are, the more we end up loving the place, you know? And we might have mentioned this one before. Another one was like when we went into Montana and there were fires everywhere around the mountains. We were guided through a valley that had been burning recently.
Valley of Death.
It was just looked horrible. I'm like, should we be driving through all this burned stuff? And when we got there, it was in the middle of nowhere.
And we pulled over at one point on the side of the road, this little tight little valley. And there were a bunch of cows on this hillside right next to the road. And they were all looking at us like
turn around. You're going to die.
Now.
Go turn around. But
so
we got there in the big open fields there between all these mountain ranges that were on fire. We had a fantastic time there.
It was beautiful.
It was beautiful. And so, you know what? The more weird, we like, give it a chance. Let's see. And look, we're back again.
Yeah, because it is actually beautiful. Yeah. It is out in the middle of nowhere, but it's on the Oregon Trail, the old Oregon Trail.
And literally right on the Snake River, which is super cool.
Yes. We can see and walk down to the docks, the campground access to the river, just right, I don't know, is it 100 yards from our campsite?
About that. And in between us and the river is what?
The horses.
Which is, last time we were here, we took tons of photos of these horses that just wander around in the field. And it's mothers and their foals kind of thing, right? It's just
mama horses and the baby horses.
It's so cool.
And they come down. There's a ranch further down the street, I guess, or down the fields.
Yeah.
And they just come wandering up to the campground every afternoon. And it's about
like clockwork.
20 horses, maybe.
Yeah, about that.
And they're just adorable. So we get to see the horses, and that makes this campground super special. It's really nice.
A lot of our photos are these horses right now. We're taking a lot of pictures of horses.
Lots of trees, very green grass that they water every single
They're
day,
very good about watering
constantly.
here.
So it's very green.
Cool
It's
campground.
just beautiful.
One of my other things is that it is a gas station at the front, right?
Yeah.
So there are a lot of people getting gas there, but it's also they make all this food and they
There's a
deliver it
cafe.
to your rig.
Yep.
So we've done that once last time. We had breakfast served here, but they send pizzas and they have ice cream and sandwiches and hamburgers,
Yeah.
and they'll bring it to you. It's just amazing. So this is high on our list of quirky places that we just love.
Yeah,
Very,
absolutely.
very
Love it. So that kind of brings us to our topic of the day is, how do you schedule travel while working full time?
Yeah, that's an important topic. Like we're not vacationing, we're not retired, and so scheduling is a very big challenge, and that is my wife's responsibility, and she has a tough job all the time. And so how do we schedule that? It's one of the most important things when you're balancing this work and life schedule. And if you're a retiree or you're on vacation, you look at where you go.
Totally different.
Yeah, what could go wrong, right? You're just on vacation.
Yeah.
But when you have to work Monday through Friday, whether it's online or otherwise, it's a little more challenging. So how do we go about doing that?
Yeah. Well, my big secret is I do use RV Life Trip Wizard, which is an incredible planning tool that I'm sure we've talked about and will talk about again. But specifically for planning our travels for work, overall, we base it on our family calendar and work events. For example, we are currently headed toward Wyoming for a big FMCA rally.
Yay. It's going to be fun.
Where we'll be parking with our AIM Club group.
Yeah, if we haven't mentioned before, AIM is all-inclusive motorhomes. It's a really cool group, but if you go to FMCA, AIM puts on a great free show. Free food, free entertainment, lots of great people.
Yeah,
so check it out if you go to the
so
FMCA.
much fun. Everybody's welcome.
Yep.
And yeah, it's a fantastic group. So when you go into these rallies, you actually can camp. You go in caravans, which is groups of people who are in the same club or...
Yeah, it could be by the brand that of their rig. Some of them are grouped together by
Coach has their own neighborhood at the rallies.
And then you could choose. There's very different groups, and we go in typically with AIM. We've done it with Integra once, but a lot of times we'll go with AIM because they put on a great show, and just everybody's just so interesting because they travel a lot, and we love that.
Yeah, and everybody is invited, so we can talk more about that later. So pretty much there's two big international conventions and RV rallies put on by FMCA, which is the Family Motor Coach Association. And those are typically in March and August. So we are on our way to the August rally in Gillette, Wyoming this year. So I guess the rest of our schedule throughout the year, May, we typically are in Las Vegas for a big tech convention.
Yeah, for work.
For Russ.
Love Vegas is really fun certain times of the year. One, you got to go there because we have to go there because of work. But if you go to Vegas, obviously it's sometimes hot there. We were recently there; it was very hot.
Very hot.
So picking your times. In fact, if you've heard some of the previous podcasts, we talked about getting locked in at was
Red
it a state
Rocks.
park? Yeah. So
State
lots of
park,
fun stuff there. But that's typically one of the places we're in May is Vegas.
Yeah, for that conference.
Yeah. And
then June, July, August, some 4 to 6 weeks in there, we are usually up in Washington State, which is our home base, so that we can see our kid who's up there and family
doctor
and
visits,
take care of our annual maintenance things.
Yeah.
And then by Labor Day, after the FMCA rally in Wyoming this year, we typically spend Labor Day with family in St. Louis.
Silver Lobster Farm, thank you.
Yeah, which our aunt and uncle although they're closer. They're more in age like cousins. But anyway, they put in a 50 amp pedestal just for us so that we could be there. And the reason that's our Labor Day destination is because there is a huge Labor Day celebration and festival at the church,
local church there.
Outside, it's
big time. Great music and food,
and a lot of fun, and blow up things for the kids to jump in and all that.
Wonderful.
So we try to be in St. Louis for Labor Day.
That's right.
At our special spot there.
Save that spot, please. don't.
Shh.
Yeah.
It's like our own personal Harvest Host location. But anyway, this year,
which, by the way, it's referred to as mooch docking.
Oh, right.
So if you're boondocking, you're out in the middle of nowhere, you have no hookups. If you got full hookup somewhere at a campground like where we are now, but mooch docking is when you're usually at a friend's or family's and you have partial hookups.
Yeah.
And we are getting 50 sweet amps off of...
because they specifically put that in for
Pat
us.
and Monica, thank you for the sweet 50
We love
amps.
you.
So it's
We'll
it's
see
awesome.
you in a couple weeks.
Now we still have to be very careful how much water and sewer and gray tanks, but it's awesome.
Yeah. So Labor Day in St. Louis, and then this year we are heading down to the Albuquerque Balloon Festival in October.
So awesome. We didn't get in at first, right? We were denied.
Right.
And so we were like, oh, well, maybe next year. And then what happened?
We're going in with the Integra Coach Owners Association, which is another group.
We got in more than once, though.
Yes, because then the big festival sent us an email saying, hey, we've got room for you now. And we were like, yeah,
so we were double invited, and we had to choose which way to go, which is great.
So we're very excited. That'll be our first time at the Albuquerque Balloon Festival, which is a huge thing, a huge RV encampment.
Yeah, we didn't know much about it, of course, until we hit the road and met a lot of RVers. And what's cool about Albuquerque, is apparently they call it the Albuquerque box, I believe, where the wind blows one direction low. So the balloons can go up to a low level. It goes one direction. Then they rise up, and the wind direction goes the opposite way. So they can come all the way back and come down where they started. Now, it doesn't happen 100%, but generally it means you have a very predictable ride on these balloons, which is really, really cool.
Talking about Albuquerque and the Balloon Festival in October, we are so excited this year because on October 14th, 2023, there's this natural event happening. It's called the Great Western Annular Eclipse. It's a partial eclipse visible from the entire United States. And in New Mexico, apparently, we're going to see the Ring of Fire.
Wow.
Which is visible to parks within the path. And apparently at our campground where we'll be in Albuquerque on October 14th, we're going to see this spectacular.
Okay. Cool.
Once in a lifetime event. So there you go. Yeah.
As the driver, I learned this as we get there. So that's cool.
Yeah. So then October, we're looking at November, December, January, finding somewhere warm for the winter. And that's been in Florida for the last 2 years. This year, we're actually going back to Washington State, which is not warm.
It's one of the worst times to be there, I'll be honest. So.
But we've got stuff we got to take care of up there. Yeah. So
what
we'll be home for the holidays. The summary of all of this is that we are always looking for, I am when I'm planning these things, looking for quirky campgrounds and cool places to go to, especially if there's a national park nearby that we can explore. I mentioned we're heading to Gillette, Wyoming for the FMCA rally in August. And what's the big thing that we planned?
The big thing is like our first season we went out. I was like, okay, here's all the things I want to go see. And one of the top ones was what everybody wants to see is Devil's Tower, right?
Devil's Tower.
And we didn't get to go. And this season we get to go. So
almost
Close
2 weeks at Devil's Tower, baby.
Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and they play it every night at the campground, which is awesome. So
at the base of Devil's Tower.
I know. So
Russ is super exciting about that. Excited.
Yeah. And we're going to be there long enough that even if the weather, goes sideways a couple of days, we'll be there long enough to have a good day. So very excited. So how do we go about choosing the campgrounds that we're going to go to?
And these specific quirky little campgrounds that we find.
Weirdo ones. So, and we didn't even tell you when we rolled into this one. Not only is it got a gas station out front, which kind of scared us off. There's a big metal dragon at the front too, which is why we were like, what is this place? Village of the Damned, gas station, dragons. And now it's one of our favorites.
It is. It is. So how do you choose these quirky campgrounds? Yeah. Well, again, using RV Life Trip Wizard, I start with very basic requirements based on where we're going to be and how far it is within range of our travel schedule to get there. The first things I look at in Trip Wizard is, one, is it a campground that has big rig access, which means you can drive your big 40-plus foot RV in the roads and maneuver and
spaces
get to your space. Yeah. So that's the first requirement. Then I look for FHU, which is...
You're just making up acronyms now.
Full hookups.
There should be like a B at the end. Full hookups, baby.
We really like our full hookups, which by that I mean 50 amp power, water, and sewer connection. For working full time like we do, it's really important.
Yeah. You don't want to have to stop, move the rig, go dump the tanks, come back.
Right.
When you're working, that's a pain.
Right. You stay in place for the week or however long you're going to be there. So big rig access, full hookups, and connectivity.
Super important. That's the one that she's always looking at. Is like, we have 3 different ways to get to the internet, so she's always counting how many of those 3
and one of them is never the campground Wi-Fi.
Oh, yeah. That's a 4th. That is a Hail Mary if you have to use it. And we had to use it once. And surprisingly, it was magic that time. But usually it's garbage.
Yeah.
So, it's those 3. And she's always counting how many of the 3 that we have. So.
We're looking for the cellular networks for T-Mobile, AT&T, and also Starlink.
Right. If there's too many trees, for example, Starlink is really a challenge. So.
But Starlink's kind of our backup right now. So.
Yeah. In fact, speaking of that, when we came here the first time, you walked in and said, hey, we need a place where we can get the satellite. And they said, what kind of satellite you have? And you said Starlink. And they go, what's that? So
and I'm like, I don't know.
The weird thing is that was season 1 where a lot of people didn't know.
Last year, 1 year ago.
A year ago. And then this season we pulled into a place in Washington and everybody there had Starlink. So what we thought was unique, now everybody's got it. So, but the row they put us on here is really for anyone using any kind of satellite, not even Starlink if you're using Dish and DirecTV. And it's because they've basically taken the trees out of this row.
Right.
So if you use satellite, they've got you figured out here, which is really cool.
Yeah, they know what Starlink is now.
That's right.
Speaking of that, the last one of the other things that I check after those basic requirements are ratings and reviews. Trip Wizard has ratings and reviews on their app. And also then I double check on Google because sometimes Google has the most recent and honest campground ratings. So, and the 2 main things that I look at when I'm looking at the reviews are plenty of space between the sites and also avoiding longer term campgrounds. Even this campground here has several rows of longer term tenants, longer term campers. And those are people that are working in the area, whether they're traveling nurses, whether they're working at the campground, whether they're working on infrastructure, the power lines, the linemen and all that. So you have to be careful sometimes though, because sometimes if it's all long-term residents, it's not really conducive to transients, which is what we are, transients. This one has it really figured out in that they have a section that is more longer term campers, and then they have a row or two that is more transient of people coming in and out, even more so than we do because we're here for the week.
That's right.
And we've had people coming in and out every day.
Yeah. Our neighbors on both sides, every day we have a brand new neighbor in this row here, which is fine with us because it's a new rig to look at, and we get to watch how they pull in and set up their stuff. It's kind of fun. But you're right. The rows over next to us, you can tell people are long-term. They'll have large LP tanks or propane tanks set so that they don't have to use their small ones. They'll have skirting around the bottom of their
so
RV.
They're ready for
Ready
winter.
for winter.
Yeah.
So there's kind of real obvious things. And you're right. Those are people that are working hard usually in that area, and that's how they're living in that area. So
and typically I look for that in the reviews because sometimes it's not a good situation for transients, people to roll in and roll out.
It's just a different vibe.
That?
It's a different vibe. So when it's a mix, it's good because then you're meeting people some people are on the road and some people live there. If it's everybody living there, you kind of get
you're out of place.
You're not treated great. And nobody's mean or anything.
It's just you're out of place because it's a community. It's more of a neighborhood.
And we've done
community
both where we didn't know this early on, and so we're like, okay, pick places where it's a mix or it's all people that are moving on. So.
Yeah, and really friendly people. And yes, we do like these quirky campgrounds because they tend to have more room between RVs, whereas the chains, the KOAs. They can be really close together.
Okay, with that said, what is the worst place? Well, we were jammed in side by side, and it was the most expensive place we ever stayed at.
That was not a KOA.
It was not?
That was...
it doesn't matter the brand, but where was it?
Oh, it wasn't a brand. It was in Oceanside, California.
That's right. Where our slides that come out almost touched everyone on both sides. It was so packed in there, but it was the most expensive campground I think we've ever been to.
Because we were supposedly on the beach.
Supposedly on the beach.
And it was supposedly a resort.
Yeah.
But
it was neither. There was a road between us and houses between us. Between the water and us, and it was not a resort. But
we were there for a reason,
and
we needed to
another
spend a little time
reasons,
there.
So
yeah. So
check the reviews.
There's these little indicators of lots of long-term residents, and oh my God, you can't even put your slides out. Okay, those are not the places you want to go. Those are not quirky. Those are different. So anyway, now that we've talked about the basic requirements of the campgrounds, Russ, let's talk about how we schedule our travel. What kind of travel schedule are we on?
So when you're work-life balance is all about making sure you're able to do the work to pay the bills to do this lifestyle. And for us, because we have a traditional Monday through Friday job. I mean, we work late and we work weekends sometimes, but
working for the man.
So we travel on weekends. So sometimes that includes we leave on a Friday night. Most of the time it means we leave Saturday morning and we'll travel ideally one day. We'll be there by Saturday night or Saturday afternoon. But sometimes, depending on where we need to get to, we'll travel both days, Saturday and Sunday. But that's a challenge sometimes.
Which sometimes you'll hear of these travel schedules on the RV groups of 3-3-3 or 2-2-2.
Yeah.
And why doesn't that work for people who are trying to work full time on the road?
Yeah.
I think that's more of a retiree schedule.
Yeah, the 3-3-3. So we learned this early on. We were trying to learn all these little clever words and things like that people were doing. And the 3-3-3 was like 3 hours of driving, arrive by 3, and stay at least 3 days. Now, I'll be honest, if you think about that, the idea of only staying 3 days, that doesn't make sense for most people that work. And traveling only 3 hours, if you're trying to...
you're never going to get anywhere.
Now, we're not saying we'd like to just travel like crazy. Yeah. But it didn't really work. And there's also a 222. There's all these like made up ones that work. But the funny thing is they all get back to people that are vacationing, or more importantly, they're retired. And then you can do whatever you want, right? 3 hours of driving
that
and then
freedom,
kicking
baby.
back for 3 days.
Yeah.
But 3 days you're going to be in like Wednesday. Like, I'm still working till Friday. What are you talking about? So we learned that early on, and we're like, oh, we're going to do the 323. And I was like,
Yeah,
this doesn't
that
work
doesn't
at all.
work.
That's just crazy talk. So
we're more on the 666 rule.
the devil's travel. Exactly.
Our ideal schedule is more like driving 6 hours, arriving by 6 p.m., and staying at least 6 days.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
We're joking. We don't really do a 666. Like, it is truly like she figures out
it's
where
whatever
we're going,
it needs to be.
and we do what we need to do. Sometimes it's less. It's great. Occasionally it is 3 or 4 hours. And then sometimes she's like, we're going to have to do a long drive. It's 8 hours. You okay with that? And I'm like, yeah, if I get to essentially, sleep in, right?
Yeah. We used to split up long drives over the weekend and try to stick to 4 to 6 hours a day. And we were using the Harvest Host program overnight on the Saturday night, which would be really fun. But then this season, we decided that we tend to go the distance on Saturday. If it's this weekend was like an 8-hour drive on the Saturday because we knew where we were heading. We were coming to Village of the Trees.
You almost said it.
And we wanted to get here. And then, that sleep-in day on Sunday. Then we weren't traveling.
Yeah, we didn't actually think about it too much because we were learning every single day. We were learning something new. But the one thing we did figure out relatively quickly was when you are working full-time, that sleep-in day is a big deal. Whether it's like you have a good Friday night, you sleep in Saturday and Sunday. Now, we travel almost every Saturday. Sometimes we get 2 weeks off, but almost every Saturday, which means a Sunday minimum is nice. And so we get to sleep in. I make a big brunch or breakfast kind of thing. We get to do whatever we want on Sundays. And that really helps before you start on a Monday morning.
And we've discovered that we really enjoy the long drives. Those 6, even 8-hour drive. It's such a great time together where we can talk about projects and planning and long conversations about all kinds of things. It's our side hustle time. So yeah, we've changed our traveling a bit that way to go the longer distance for the sleep-in days and the long drive together.
Yeah, so we ideally, when we can get it done, we like to stay 2 weeks. And the main reason is like there's that weekend in between.
Yeah.
Where
sleep-in day, baby.
You're not packing the rig up on Friday and Saturday. You wake up on Saturday like, wow. And that's also when we get some really
that is
cool
the perfect time.
Adventures, right?
Sunset
so when we were
adventures.
near Zion, we
Yeah.
were there for at least 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And that was amazing. So
A 2-week schedule gives me a chance to get out and check out the area, scout things out. And then we have the whole weekend. So instead of just going out on sunset adventures in an evening, we can plan the weekend. And that's what we did at Grand Canyon and Yellowstone and Zion. We had the whole weekend. So we got to go out and be real tourists, which was really fun.
Yeah. All right. So really, I think it really gets down to the ideal amount of time. For me, is definitely 2 weeks. And I'm sure some people might want to do more, but at least 2 weeks, maybe 3 or 4. Have we ever done 3 or 4?
Our schedule just hasn't really worked out that way for the most part.
But there's been a couple of places we went to and we were like, oh, we don't want to leave now, And so at least 2 weeks. And the reason the 2 weeks is cool because there's that weekend in the middle. And we get to sleep in, and I'll get up and make a big breakfast, and we'll just do all of the things we want to do, as opposed to getting in the rig, closing it up, driving kind of thing.
It is lovely to stay a while in the same place. Russ, when we stay a longer term in one location, then we have the weekends for the exploring and also grilling, which is so exciting when Russ can get the Blackstone out.
Love that.
We have a big grill, and that we grill up steak, chicken, tons of veggies. And then we have all of that for the entire week for tacos, salads, pasta.
Yep.
It's awesome when we have a chance to grill.
Yeah. And we sneak it in occasionally while we're doing 1 week. I'll do a Wednesday night or something.
Or on the Sunday.
Yeah. And that's good. But yeah, it is one of our funnest things.
Although a month or two, sometimes, like when we're at home base, we always find we are ready to go.
Yeah, that's true. It is amazing how we're ready to go so quickly.
So maybe 2, maybe 3 weeks. I don't know.
Yeah.
Have we? Well, anyway,
we're still figuring it out. We're on season 3.
Yeah,
we're still
we
figuring it out.
are.
All right. So, okay, we've figured out the schedule. We've figured out kind of how you pick the actual campgrounds.
I would also make a note that staying longer, weekly or monthly, it's less expensive because there are discounts for monthly and weekly stays versus the nightly rate.
Yeah.
So that's another good benefit of staying a little longer.
Good point. Yeah, that's true. Like when in fact, sometimes you've saved money where we're only going to be there 6 days, but you still book the 7 because it's cheaper.
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's like we're paying them the money, so
right.
It's not like we're cheating anybody.
And then we either come in a day late or we leave a day early.
Which is nice. We end up saving money and we're a lot more flexible there.
Yeah,
So it
that
depends on how
weekly
long
rate, it can make a big difference.
Yeah. So, but within a campground, like picking a spot, like we were talking about here that we're on a road that doesn't have trees, but that's good for like satellite and stuff.
Right.
So how do you in general pick where? Sometimes they don't let you pick, right? They pick it for you. But when you get to choose, how do you choose?
When we have a choice, we tend to avoid the pool, the playground, and the dog park.
Not that we don't love those things,
Nope.
But
it's just a matter of peace and quiet for working.
Yeah.
So you don't have all that background noise and interruption.
Yeah.
And really, you can walk up to the pool when you're ready for fun and noise. But we like to be on the outskirts to have a little more quiet for working.
Yeah, I've mentioned it before. Like I'm on Zoom all day long, and so the outside noises of mowers and kids and stuff it's all fine normally if you're on vacation. But
I can't get you away from the mowers and the landscapers, though.
They are amazingly how they chase us. So yeah, so that's our strategy at least. It's not required, and if you're for example not on Zoom and stuff like that, then it's less important to you. But for us, that becomes really important.
On a quiet spot in the campground. We also look for clearings so that we can set up the Starlink if we need it as a backup.
Mm-hmm.
And that's led to a whole new challenge of protecting your Starlink on the ground.
Yeah. Which is funny because we don't use the Starlink. It's now our third. It's our backup. It's like not number 1, not number 2. It's number 3 because we can actually disable it. So it's great because in an emergency I can just turn it on and only pay when I'm using it, kind of thing. But when it's out there, because it's wired and it's a wire laying on the ground,
got a cable, yeah.
Boy, those mowers love to come on over. I'm like, don't mow over the cable.
And we try to protect it. We have several solar lights and this little tiki god statue who also lights up.
Yeah.
So we kind of put them in a ring around the Starlink. It's like, don't drive over our Starlink.
Yeah.
Don't mow.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just too funny. The landscapers always come during the workday.
Yeah.
They're mowing and blowing. And then in Arkansas, we were kind of remote. We were using and relying on the Starlink. And that was the place where we had that tornado warning, which is when they wake you up at 5:30 in the morning with an air horn and you have to go to the tornado shelter for the 6 a.m. tornado party.
We had to do
right?
That. Yeah.
And it was it was funny because at the time we had the Starlink set up and the cable was running right out in front of the RV. We were parked on the lake.
Yeah.
And so he had the Starlink out there.
It was the only way for us to get reasonable internet there. That's one of the few places I really had to have it.
Right, because it was kind of remote.
Yeah.
Table Rock Lake.
Yeah, and we were in kind of
Arkansas,
a valley, so the cell towers and stuff weren't reaching us well. So if it wasn't for Starlink, we probably wouldn't have good internet at all.
So it was raining. It was early. It was crazy, but we
wind.
still had the Starlink sitting out there on its cable attached to the RV.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know what a pistol whipping daisy sprinkler is.
It's a story about our youngest son, our oldest son, when he was like a year old, playing in our front yard with one of those water sprinklers that just kind of flops left and right when the water's on. And he was so young, he would walk up and it was just beating the crap out of him as it hit him. It was the funniest thing because he was getting injured by this.
It was like a wacky noodle. So we've called it the pistol whipping daisy ever since. It was foam. It wasn't hard plastic or anything. There were no major injuries.
There might have been knives taped to it or something. I don't remember.
No, it was just foam. But it was so funny. So we've always remembered the pistol whipping daisy.
Anything that swings around and can injure you is the pistol whipping daisy. And we refer to that because I had put sandbags on that thing because it was the tornado on the Starlink. Yeah. Because I was like, okay, I don't want the wind to blow it away. But when it's a tornado, there's no sandbag that's going to hold that baby down. Right. So I was worried, even if the tornado
had to go.
Even if it didn't directly hit, the winds were crazy. And I was like, that baby's going to grab that little Starlink and just whip it around and beat the crap out of our rig. We came back and it was still there.
It was okay. But yeah. Wow. You got to protect your equipment, man.
That's right.
Be prepared for anything.
So we've talked a lot about how you schedule and plan travel when you're doing work life and you're trying to balance all that. And a lot of it has come down to, we were talking about where we go and how we find those places and the kind of nuances of what the kind of places you should find and where you should be in there. That's all extremely important.
Because travel planning for work is very different than vacation.
That's right. And so if you are traveling for vacation, enjoy. That's not what we're here to talk about. I love it.
We're jealous.
Yeah, we get to vacation a few times a year, but we believe we're almost always on vacation when we step out at the end of every day. So, and then we always try to incorporate a lot of fun in the travel plans that we do.
Yeah, with sunset adventures and staying places where there's something to do and explore. And all the time for the last 2 years that we've been on the road full time, I'm always worried about Russ because he works really hard all day long on the Zoom with his clients and
I know you like to say that though.
Team members all over the world in different time zones. So I'm always like, are you having fun? Yeah. Are you having fun? Because you spend so much time on that computer.
And what do I say every time?
The answer is, well, you should say.
So I always say yes, because when I finish my day here, I get to step out into some amazing place that we've gone to, where she's taken us to. When I was back in the Sticks and Bricks, I would walk out either in the condo or the house, wherever we were, and it was always the same thing, and it was some new amount of work. So, yes, we're getting to go amazing. We just talked about this great place we're at, and so at the end of every day, it's like, wow, where are we at this week?
You close up the computer and the laptops and everything, and here we are.
And we sometimes do a sunset adventure and go do something. We did that the other night. We just hung up and went to, where did we go?
Massacre Rocks.
Massacre Rocks. That's a real place, people, and it's amazing. It's part of the settlers.
It's a state park,
crossing the Oregon Trail.
And last time we were here at Village of Trees.
Yep.
We went out on a weekend and found,
Craters of the Moon National Monument.
And it was amazing.
Highly recommend that. So there's actually a campground there. So if you're not staying here, stay there. It's pretty cool.
There's a campground at Massacre Rocks, too.
That's right. And it was pretty cool, too. We went and visited and we learned a lot there.
And that's on the Oregon Trail.
That's right.
So it had to do with Indian ambushes at the certain point that's now the interstate. But anyway.
All right. Well,
cool.
If you have enjoyed this, check out the show notes. We've talked about quite a few things. We've talked about the tools we use and how we do it. We try to put all those products and links in the show notes there. And we really appreciate you taking the time to listen today. If you're new, we really appreciate you taking the time to listen. Please subscribe.
And if you're not new, you subscribers out there, we love you. Thank you so much for your support and hanging with us over these adventures and travels over the last couple years. Thanks, guys. Most important thing, make the escape and get out there.
All right.
Let's go.